Let's talk about some of the worst dribbling mistakes, and one of them is actually kind of this. This in itself is not a problem. I don't have a problem with this drill. I don't have a problem with you working on that drill, but too much stationary work with one ball or even two balls could be a problem. I think it's great to get in two ball work. I think it's great to get in stationary work. In fact, I have a full program. I'll link to the comments that'll really help you with your ball control and a lot of the things we're going to talk about in this video. And a lot of that is stationary. It's called ball on a string. And stationary dribbling is great for foundational work to develop your ball control, which is what that program's all focused on. And it's just a good thing to have part of your regular dribbling routine to keep your ball control in check. And it's fantastic for warm-ups. But you need to get the necessary time with this in the mix. And what I mean by this is getting the feet moving. Your feet inevitably are what help sell fakes, help get you somewhere on the court. They set up a good shot. Everything comes down to footwork, and really the whole purpose of dribbling is to allow you to move somewhere, right? But if you're always just working on this stationary stuff, you're probably not getting the necessary timing of also getting comfortable with moving the basketball into different spaces, having your body move over here. That's going to change the control. If I dribble straight up and down versus dribble with the jab, see how my hand position has to change from here to catch the basketball, or I got to pull it and have my hand here to bring the ball with me. But if I'm just doing this, I'm not getting a lot of work in on that. Now I can simulate that, but it's just not quite the same as getting the full body mechanics in. So getting that practice in is super important. And of course, doing it in games. In games, if you're just always here, you're a sitting duck, it's a little bit easier for the defenders to know where the ball's gonna be, so they know where they can poke at it. But if I move over here, they don't have just this little range to pick from for where they're gonna poke at it. They gotta come for all the way out here, maybe out here, right? It changes the whole dynamic of how they're gonna have to guard you. Plus it creates opportunities where they have to move or not move, and that'll open an opportunity for me to drive here if they don't move. If they do move, you could come here. It opens up passing lanes, it opens up shooting space, all kinds of stuff. Get the feet involved. The next problem is always dribbling like this. Maybe you have some footwork involved, but your dribbling is all like this. See the problem here? The problem is there's no hang. And what I mean by hang is floating that basketball, hanging it in the air for a while in your dribble hand. And what that does is opens up a lot of opportunities in a lot of ways. When I hang the ball, it's in my hand, obviously, but that's very powerful. When the ball is in my hand, I can do things more quickly. When I'm dribbling and the ball's out of my hand, I cannot move it, manipulate it, anything until it comes back in my hand. That takes extra time, it's extra space where the defender can poke at the ball. I can't really start moving all of a sudden unless I'm gonna switch hands. But if the ball's in my hands, I can move anywhere I want very, very freely, and I don't have to wait for it to get back in my hand, and I always have control of it. And because I always have control of it, I can also get into shots quicker. I can make passes quicker. I can change directions. I can just go. So you want to be careful when you're doing this that your hand's not coming under the ball, because that would be a carry. Generally, refs will let you get away with having the midline of the palm, the middle of the palm, from halfway down the basketball or up. Anything lower than that, they're probably going to start calling a carry. But if you got it here on up, you're probably going to be okay. Other thing that'll help, get some force into that dribble. If I pound it harder, I can kind of bottle that energy up into my hand and it'll float longer. But if I dribble soft, ball comes down a lot quicker. So work on that, and then getting some movement with the feet involved, hanging into jump shots, hanging into passes, drives, crossovers, play around with it, get the feet moving, and just experiment with it. The more you do that, the more you'll have options off the dribble, and the more powerful your dribble will be. Another mistake is not having air control. So what I mean by air control is having control over the basketball while you're floating in the air. So it kind of ties in with that hang dribble. A lot of stuff will come from that hang dribble, being able to come from that hang dribble and then move the ball around in air, manipulate it. So not just going from this into a crossover or just this and picking up this and pass. There we're talking about the ball pretty much always being in this position and then moving it somewhere, which involves a little bit of air control. But when I talk air control, I mean the ability to see all the wrist movement in there. My hand comes from here, I come over the top, I move the ball over to my midline, and then I move it all the way back out, all in one dribble, right? Come from here, stepping out, and then going into a behind the back. So my hand position has to come from here to push it out, and then here to pull it behind the back. Those movements in air are very important to make the most of that hang dribble and be able to do the most with the basketball quickly. Again, like we said before, if the basketball is in our hand, we can do something quicker. So I want to work on my ability to control the basketball more in air and do more things with it. Not just with my feet, or not just picking it up, not just passing, driving, going into basic crossovers, but manipulating it a little bit more. But that's not just from the hang dribble when we're talking about this air control. It could be a situation where maybe I push the ball here and boom, I got to pull it back, right? Different manipulations like that are gonna be important. When we talk about our spin move, there's a lot more different hand position changes. I'm gonna start here, pull it back, and as I get into the spin, I'm gonna have to flick it kind of down like that. All these little changes in hand positions, ball movement within the air are gonna make a big difference. Also, our behind the back versus our wrap behind the back. Look at the difference in hand position. This, pretty much all sideways. This, I have to turn and rotate into curl the basketball. You wanna start talking about a fake behind the back, right? Hands coming from here into that wrap behind the back position, and I'm gonna curl it even more to push it back out here. So mastering that air control gives you a lot more options, and it can make you shifty and crazy unpredictable. Next mistake comes down to not doing the first thing, which was this, but also not doing too much of this thing, which was this. You gotta mix up your heights of dribbles and your speeds. So that being said, we're gonna wanna have some hang dribbles into a low crossover. And you'll also notice I come from high to low. I can use that to slow down and then explode past defender. These changes of speed allow me to be unpredictable. It helps sell my fakes because there's more contrast between what I'm doing, going slow to fast and coming from high to low. Throws defenders timing and anticipation and rhythm off. Getting those things into place is important. So as you're hanging the ball, you're moving your feet, all that stuff, think about also getting some low dribbles into the mix, and you bring the two together and changing your ball positioning, your body positioning, and it's gonna make you a lot more shifty, unpredictable, and better in game. Which brings me to the next mistake, which is not switching up the footwork. This over and over and over again starts to become predictable. If you're always working on dribbling and the ball hits with the inside foot, that's gonna come predictable. On this side, right hand, left foot, that's gonna become predictable. So if I can do little things like skips, that can throw timing off. I can change my angle of my footwork, that can throw defenders off. I can change the speed. I can add little double taps with my feet. I can do an in and out stepping here versus more in versus back. And I can do it slower and a little more obvious, or quick and more unexpected. Play around with these variables, the angles, the speeds, the spacings, how much distance I'm covering, how many steps I take in a dribble. And yes, you can take unlimited steps during a dribble. That is not a travel. I've been hearing that a lot online. I don't know why lately, but there's no limit to what you can do with your feet while the dribble is live and legal, as long as you're not palming, carrying, something like that. So get free to explore with your feet with all your moves. So I gave you a whole bunch of examples there with the in and out dribble. You can do the same thing with any other move, though you're between the legs, but let's bring back a couple different things for the in and out, just to get the wheels turning in your head for things you can play around with. So everything I did was with this foot, right? And I changed the speed and angles, but I could also maybe use this other foot, right, for something a little more unorthodox. I could also think about the spaces I'm getting into. I could do that in and out to get downhill. I could do it to come back. I could do it and come the opposite direction they would expect. So there's a lot of ways you can play around with it. Free your mind and do some different stuff. Most coaches aren't gonna have a problem with you doing a little bit more stuff on the footwork side of things. It's when you start getting too in one spot and trying to do crazy flashy dribble moves too much that they're gonna have more of a problem with. But usually footwork type stuff, they're gonna be okay with as long as they're not going overboard with it. And one of the biggest dribbling mistakes is being too slow to react to opportunities on the court, whether it's to drive, to shoot, to pass, to the defense giving you an angle to beat them. You've got to be able to react to that quick. I go over that really in depth in this video right here. Make sure you check that out. Again, if you want to improve your ball control really fast, check out the ball on a string workout that's pinned in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.